Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Avodah Zarah daf Samech. We are going to begin on the bottom of Nun Testament Bays, 3 lines from the bottom. We have the following story. Hahi Chavisa the Chamra. There was this barrel of wine, dish takil le varza, that its spout, which was connecting into the barrel to get the wine out, it fell off. And also v'kachavim, so an akum came, and idri anachiyadi elayu, and he put his hand on the hole in order to stop the wine from coming out. Samra papa koil dila hadi barza chamra aser. She says that anything which is basically opposite the hole of the spout, that will be aser. In other words, if let's say the hole is here, so we say that all the wine which is in this area is aser, which is mashma, the wine which is above it, or the wine which is below it is mutter. So this is obviously a kula. The wine in the hole is forbidden for drinking because he touched this wine. But the rest is fine since there was no shichshuch due to the narrow hole. Okay. Which again is a pretty huge chiddush. The idach, as we continue to daf samech, shari. The rest apparently is mutter. It says Rashi apishtia. You can even drink this wine. The savert stadim lav chibor la'aser kol hayayin. We say that it doesn't have the capacity, this situation, of causing the rest of the wine to be aser because of chibor, because it's connected to that wine. The halach is not like this, says Rashi. The high muki rab yemer milsed rab papa katanoi become like rab papa Rabbi Huda dichida the yochid ram halach rabim. So we end up saying that this is really das yochid. However, the Rabbanan disagree and will aser b'shtia. Okay, all right. V'ika di amri omer papa ad habarza chamer aser. Up until the spout, it's aser. The idach shari, in other words, anything that's underneath the hole is allowed. Rav Yemer ketanoi. Chavi is shenikva. Let's say you have a barrel with a hole in it. Bein mipiha, whether on the top, bein mishuleha, or on the bottom, bein mitzideha, or it's on the bottom or on the side. V'naga by tvul someone who's tamei touches this. So we say tamei, which is mashma. All of the wine is tamei, not just keneged the part where he touched. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Mepia mishuleha tamea. The hole on the top or the hole on the bottom will be tamei. Metzideha tahira, but the middle not. Mikan and mikan, from this side and the next, which sounds like the first lashon, like the shita of Rab Papa, that the only thing that actually is aser is the middle part, but nothing else. So according to this lashon, Rab Papa is perhaps on some machmir, and says that all the wine above the faucet, even the sides, is usher to drink due to chibor. So that's what he says, that it's all considered to be tameh. So even though it sounds like rapapma, but it's actually a chumrah in this case. Fine, let's stop for a second. Let's look at a couple questions. Question 11. Chavi shenitol habarza v'hniach akum yado al hanekev to save the wine, madin hayayin lahalacha b'shtia uvahana. So we said it is aser b'shtia. However, it's going to be mutter b'hana, as we said, because there's no shichshuch. So therefore, it's not going to be aser b'hana, but it's still going to be aser b'shtia. TA 12. Chavisa de chamra de ishtakel barza v'akum haniach yadul sham eza chelik mehayayin neser b'shtia. Gimel shitais. So according to one lashon, it's only that which is keneged habarza, opposite the spout. Another opinion, the second lashon is kol hayayin shomala, all the wine above it, ad habarza until the spout is aser, umata mutter, but on the bottom is mutter. Or the Rabbanan says a kol aser. So those are all the different shitos regarding that. Okay. All right, so let's look at, first of all, we had this question as well, question TB13. Not sure why I skipped it. This is actually the same question as question 10. That the answer is it is mutter. The question in the other question we did last week, it just says the answer is mutter. That's it. But there's obviously a little bit more to this than just that. So this is TB13. That's what I wrote. Why? Kumo mazik. Yachshav ze ki'ilu enu poi. So actually the language is it's michakalia, right? That it's like burned and destroyed. Okay. Question TB14. Chavisa the chamra. What is the din? So again, and it says Gimel, so this is really the same question, that there's 3 sheets. This is the same question as TA12, is TB14. So let's see what I wrote. Hopefully I wrote the right answer. Let's see in a second. Let me just mark this down. So this is on Daf Samech. Raka mokim sheniach yodai sham, Lomalo matim imenu moter, aser gam malomala min hanekev, or hakol aser. I think that's a pretty good, clean way of reading it. Okay, let's keep going. So, Omar Papa, Oivi Kachavim Adna, let's say you have this Oivi Kachavim that is pouring wine, V'Yisrael akuba. And so he has the cask, and Israel has the jug, which means the Akum is pouring it into the jug. So Chamer Aser. So the wine becomes Aser, my timer. Ki Kasi, because when the wine goes into the jug, Kasi. So therefore, Als Koyach, that causes the wine to be Aser, and Rashi points out it's even Aser B'Hana. Yisrael, on the other hand, has the Adna. He's the one with the cask. The Oivin Kachavim Akuba, and the Yin is pouring the wine. So Chamashari. Why? Because it comes from the Koyach of Yisrael. However, while he's doing it, V'Matsadid Sedudi, if the non-Jew is moving it around, Aser, because he's causing Kishkush. Fine. Amra Papa, Hi Oivin Kachavim did Dari Zika. Let's say you have this Oivin Kachavim that is carrying this flask, this knotted, Rashi says, Noid Kashur. So before that, let's look at this Rashi. Chamer Aser Mishum the Mekarshkesh. L'chamer, he's like shaking the wine. Okay. Lish Nachrina fil Chasera Nami Kivan the Mekarshkesh Bekavana Havile Kaiche Bekavana Vasa Bishtia. Okay. Anyway, so he's carrying this flask, which is all tied up and knotted up. The Ka'azu Yisrael Chorel, and then you have Yisrael that's following him, basically trying to make sure that everything is kosher. So it depends. Malaya, if the wine is completely full, then Shari, because after all, Delo Mikarshkash, there's no shaking, there's no kishkush, there's no shikshoch, I should say. In other words, because the wine is completely filled up in it, it's not shaking, it can't move. So therefore, the Akum is not doing anything as far as the movement of the wine. However, Chasera Aser, because Dilmu Mekarshkesh. However, on the other hand, if it is missing, let's say it's only half full, so the wine, the Akum is causing the wine to shake all over the place, and therefore that's Aser. Kuba, that's if we're referring to before this Zika, this type of a flask. If he's holding a kuba, which is a jug, so we say differently. If the jug is Malaya Aser, why? Why is he Aser? Dilma Naga, because maybe he's going to touch it. Because it's so full, it's easy for him to touch it. The other case, it's all knotted up, you can't touch the wine. Chasera, then Shari. Then if it's missing, then it's mutter even for him from drinking. Says Rashi, Kuba Chasera Shari, the Ein Karshkish B'Kli Pachis. He's not going to be shaking this Kli. Yafagav Dechi Dari Le Yeshul Kirshkush Ma'at, even though there's some shaking. Kivodo Nichle B'Karkushe. He's not really interested in shaking it. Dilma Meshafshech. It may spill. Havilei Kaiche Shlo B'Kavana. Umutter. Avozika, when it comes to this flask, It's daimel mechashchesh v'havin nisach. Okay. Anyway, so that's why when it comes to the jug, the kuba, mole, aser, dilma naga, chaser, shari, dilma naga is not going to touch. Rav Ashi, Aimer, Zika, when we're dealing with this knotted flask, bein mole, bein chaser, shari. It doesn't make any difference, even if it's missing in the shaking around, it's still going to be mutter. Isn't there shechshuch? My time in derech nisach bekach. By shaking it in this way, that's not the normal way of nisach hayayin, and therefore it's not a problem. Ma'atzra Zarah. What is the din when it comes, as Rashi says, a gas? You have this wine press. De'ein darchen el kaivshin b'koyra. You press it with boards. Notice you're not using your feet. So because there's not touching it, and even though we said there's no negia b'regel, Rapapi shara Rabashi v'yitem Rav Shimi b'Rashi aser. So in that situation, they actually have a machlokas in that case. The kaychai, so it depends. If we're dealing with the kayach of the akum, says Rashi, heicha the anavim nischatim kaychai. The grapes are being squeezed because of his force, kagon. Sha'oil al nasarim. He steps on the boards, and that's what causes the grapes to get crushed because he's stepping on the boards which are above the grapes. Kul yamu pligid aser. In that situation, everyone says it's aser. His kayach will aser it. Ki pligid b'kayach kaychay. The machlokas is when we're dealing with an indirect force. Says Rashi says kagoin shemigalgel hagilgul v'hi ma'pelas akayra. So he rolls something and it causes the beam to crush. So you could yam b'kaycha kol yamu pligid shari. That's certainly not a problem. Ki pligid b'kaychay. Havi uvda b'kaycha kaycha v'asur Rav Yaakov min nahar pakoid. Actually, it was a story that Hitaka even asered kayach kaychay. Okay. Hahicha visa. As we continue the Samach Amid Beis, there's an episode regarding a barrel. De'ifka l'orcha, that it had a vertical crack. Now, as you can imagine, you have this kli, right? You have this barrel, and the crack is up and down. So it's like split. So, what did this guy do? So, Idriyahu Avikachavim and Chavka. So he took the two sides and he hugged it like this so that the crack would end up coming together. Now, if he didn't do it based on gravity, it would have all spilled out. So, we say that that Sharia Rafam Bar Papa, he actually mockered this wine. Now, V'itema Rav Huna Barida Rav Yeshua L'zvunu L'Avichavim. According to him, he says you could sell to Akam B'hani Lumi T'Pakal Orcha. It's only if it was cracked up and down. Aval Lapusya, if it was by its width, I feel Bishtia Shari. My time of Maslavina Ka'avid. He's just acting like a brick on top of the barrel. In other words, if you have a barrel which is split in the middle, so the reality is the top part is still going to be based on gravity hitting the bottom, and it's not going to move. So it's not going to cause necessarily all the wine to spill out. So the fact that he causes the wine to be to push these two things a little bit more tight, so that doesn't really do anything, because it's no different than like putting a brick on the top. However, if it's split in a vertical fashion, then we will not say it will be mutter b'shtia. Hahu oikachavim dish takich dehavi koi b'matzarta. So it turned out that he was again, as we were just learning, he was with this wine press which had a beam upon it. If you want to know what the status is of that wine, dishdakach tahavi koi b'matzarta Ravashi iika toifach shetfiach. If, let's say, it's so moist that it can cause something else to become moist, boy hadacha, then you have to wash it off. Boy niguv, then you need to cleanse the wine press. V'ilo b'hadacha ba'al masagile. But if it's not going to cause so much moisture, it'll cause something else moisture, then all you need to do is a regular hadacha. It's not necessary for you to also to do niguv to clean the wine press. Says Rashi, Koimet started Israel v'lo haya bo yayin. It actually didn't even have any wine in it. El mashka toifech alehen. So the question is it necessary to cleanse it out with Afer and Mayim and Afar as it's brought down elsewhere? Okay, let's look at question 12. So we already did question 11. What's the din? So we ended up saying it's going to be usher b'shtia, but mutter b'hana. Question 12. Chavish shinistika l'orcha. So you have a barrel that's split this way, from top to bottom, or to the width from its side, and the akam holds it together. What's the din with regard to drinking or hana? So if it's split up and down, it's also b'shtia, but it's mutter b'hana. L'rachba mutter af b'shtia. There we're lenient, and even b'shtia it is mutter. Okay. All right. Let's see the next Mishnah. Says the Masnisin. Oivid kechavdim shenimsa oimed betzad habor shel yayin. Let's say you have a situation where you have an akum that is found standing by the side of the pit, which is habor shel yayin. So it's a little bit problematic that he's so close to this Jewish person's wine. So imiyesh lo malvel, let's say he's a lender, which means that he lent money to this Yisrael. So then also, then we say aser. Then his it's going to be aser. Why? Lefi shlo yori liyaga. He's not afraid to touch this wine. The Zarah, he thinks, if they claim or have any issue with me, give me my money, right? So the guy, if someone is owed thousands of dollars, he's not going to say a word to me because he knows that if he starts engaging in a conversation, like, well, how about the money you owe me, right? So therefore, if in fact you are the malva, then because of that, then we're going to say it's aser because you probably did touch the wine. On the other hand, says the Mishnah, Ein lo malva lo mutter. If there's no loan, then it's mutter because we're not going to assume that he touched the wine. Okay? So now we're going to see some cases of maga shelo b'kavana, where he touched it without intention. For example, nafal bar be'ola. He fell into a pit of wine and then he climbed out. Mud du b'kana. Let's say he measured it with a reed, but he wasn't doing it for the sake of yain nesach. Says Rashi, afal gav shneschavin. Obviously, he had the kavana to do this. Hoyel l'davar acher neschavin. He had other intentions. So therefore, behind the gil, while mamashi elidei hakana, he wasn't touching it himself; it was through alidei davar acher. Hitis es tzara bekana. Let's say he throws it out with the reed. O shahaya matviach al pichavius mirutzachas. Or let's say he is with this liquid that's the bubbles are popping. In all these different cases, they said that it can be sold, which is mutar ma'anav. Rav Shimon mater, Rav Shimon is mater apparently even b'shtia. And then the Mishnah says, natos achavius. Let's say he takes the barrel, v'zarka b'chamasai, so labor. So you have an akum, he's so angry, he goes and he throws the barrel into the pit. So he said that it's kosher, which means even to drink. Says Rashi apishtia. Says the Gemara, Amr Shmuel v'hu sheyesh lo malva al oisa yayin. It's only when it's on that wine. Says Rashi, she'asol Yisrael say yayin hazeh aputiki ligvos himenu. Not just stam if you owe this guy money that it's aser, but it's dafka that he owes you. Let's say you owe him $1,000, and there's $1,000 of wine right here, and he said apotiki that in the event that I don't pay, you can just collect directly from this wine. So the akum has a very close emotional or financial connection to that wine. Actually, the Mishnah is pretty clear like that to make such a distinction. Because we learned, it says like this. Hamatahir yeno shel ovid kachavim. Someone who wants to be matahir, the wine of an akum, says Rashi, Yisrael shedarach hanavim shel ovid kachavim beheter. Yisrael who is pressing the wine the grapes of an akum with permission. Kedei l'machal Yisrael, but his intention was just for it to be sold. The ein noisin mois l'kachavim. He's not going to give any money to the akum and she mecharenu la'achar until it's sold. The nasr reshusa shel kachavim. So in that case, a matar yenu shel kachavim, which again a way of making the wine kosher. The nasr reshuso, and was given reshuso into the domain of the akum. And it was written hiskabalti, says Rashi, in kaisable ha'akum. If he writes this hiskabalti mimcha mois, I accept the money. Klomer hareni ki'ilu kabalti mois. It's as though I accept the money. She'eni ma'aki biyoncha l'hoitzi yayin rishusi b'chol eish tirtza. So if again he wrote this mois mutter, then the money is going to be mutter. Says Rashi, im yesh ha pesach or yichaisim b'yad Yisrael. As long as there's a mafteach, rather, that there's a key or a seal, that's sufficient. Aval im yirtzi Yisrael hoitzia ve'en manicho an sheyitin lo ma'asav zehayamaisa b'beis shan v'asru. However, the akum will not let him take it, then they asred. So what? So taima de manichai hamanichu shari. That's only because they didn't give him permission. If he did, it would be okay. Shema mina malva isa yayin beinan shema mina. So we see it has to be that wine in particular. Naful bar v'ol. Let's say he fell into a pit and then got up. So this is a maga shalom kavana. So amar papa lo shanu elo shalom mace. If he got up dead. If he got up alive, he's also my time. Amar papa the damile kiyom idom. Because, says Rashi, the Ozul Moide al Shenitzel, the fact that he fell in and somehow survived, he's certainly going to attribute that to an idol on that particular day. Says Rashi, though, Maskanda de Milsa, Maisek Talmuda de Inhalach Rav Shimon. Okay. Maddu Kanda Kol Elu Hayamaisav Yermi Yimach Rav Shimon Matters. Rav Shimon, even though Maskanda, we don't say this is true, we see that he holds it's even Mutter B'Shtia. Amar Ravad Barava. You should place blessings on his head. Because when he was lenient, he even was matir drinking. Bar Chanan Haki Yamar Azir Halach Rav Shimon. There ain't Halach Rav Shimon, which we already saw in Rashi. Natal. So in other words, it's not going to be mutabana. All right. Natal Chavius. Let's say he takes a barrel, V'zarka b'chamas, and he throws it with his anger. Labor. So Zehayamayis v'echshiruhu, because clearly he was told it without kavana. Okay. So Amar Avashi Kol shebazav tamei. Anytime when it comes to a zav, we call him tamei. So also will equate an akum to a zav. So anytime that we will consider him tamei, so will they. Says Rashi, this is referring to maga, the akum who's touching. Kol maga shibazav tamei. Anytime a zav touches something that makes it tamei, kigayin b'chiburin. If let's say something's connected, ben biyado ben bekana, even if it was with a reed. She'im ha'oivik ha'chavim zav v'hayayin kli o adam matama b'zav o hayayin nasa b'kach yayin nischai af hayayin shenaga v'oivik ha'chavim, so to the wine that he touches ben biyado ben bekana nasa yayin nesach v'ika v'leika l'meimar to Rav Ashi ha'nischai shel zav my koi Zika ben Malaya ben Chasera Shari Chavim behaste shel zav tamei. Okay, so a zav, therefore, is only when a zav makes things tamei. So too, do we say that it's yain nesach. However, zav, as we'll notice in a moment, will not make it tamei by the act of throwing. So too, by yain nesach, only by maga, but not by hest or by throwing. So let's go back in the Gemara. Amar Ravashi, Kol shebazav tamei b'avichavim yat oisi yain nesach. Kol shebazav tahar b'avichavim en oisi yain nesach. Esmi Rav Huna Ravashi nato sachavis v'zarka b'chal masai. He throws it in anger. Labor zeha yemaisa b'beishan b'achshiro b'chamaso inshul b'chamaso lo. But the question is, it's mashma only because he was angry. But if he wasn't angry, then we would say it's tamei. But even though it's a throw, it's still tamei. I thought we said that no matter what, just like a zav is not tamei, when if he throws something, so to over here should never. It doesn't matter if he's angry or not. So our answers, we continue to Samachal Momen Aleph, Hasam over there is to Ka'azul Minei Mina, where he pushed the jug into the pit, and it touched it. So he's not throwing it, it's not a throw from afar, as it would then be mutter. It's only because of mechuber that it's attached to it. All right, let's look in Rashi. Shahayach megalgal hakli kol shah al yidei shehu megalgal marida labor hilcha shloi b'chamasai without anger loichashinan dilma maga. Okay. All right, let's see maybe another question or two, and then we're going to stop. Okay. Question 13. Nafal bor v'olachai omes madin. So if he fell out dead, then it's mutter b'hana. However, if he fell while he was alive and he came out alive, it's also b'hana. Now Shimon will say that when he comes out dead, not only is it mutter b'hana, but even mutter b'shtia. Okay. Question TB 15. We didn't. Hamatahir yenu shel akum. V'nosnu b'bayis hapatuach or shesarabim be'ir shekul akum heim mutter kshein yoyshim mishamers. So ulchana ner mesach mafteach hana ner mesach yoytzim nichnas, and I'm not sure if we necessarily did that, so we will stop there.